Poverty is the state of being extremely poor. This is the actual definition found on dictionary.com when you search the word poverty. To understand, we must know what the word poor means. Poor, lacking sufficient money to live in the standard considered comfortable and normal in society. In the face of such enormous external influence, the government of poor nations and their people are often powerless. As a result, in the global context, a few get wealthy while the majority struggle. This was said by Anna Shaw in this article called Causes of Poverty, lastly updated in September 28, 2014. Although there are more fortunate people in this world, poverty affects many who need to know that they're in poverty, how it is affecting them, and how they can get out of it. First, let's discuss the definition of poverty. Next, look at the impact poverty has, and finally, list some ways that we can improve poverty today. First, we will discuss what poverty is, and knowing this will help us get a hold of the actual problem. Like I said in my introduction, poverty is a state of being extremely poor. I think in today's world, it is sort of easy to hide the fact that you are living in a poor state. The fact of being poor is not that what the everyday person thinks. People look at the stereotype of being poor as someone with ripped clothes, no shoes, and living in a box in an alley. But in all reality, someone that is just poor might not be able to buy everything they want, such as an iPad or a flat-screen TV. Someone that isn't poor can provide for their family with the income they have, and still have to stay in comfortable form. Everyone on this planet wants to live the American dream, to have some expensive stuff, to live in a mansion, and to have someone wait on you every day. It's just unlikely for the average person who works a 9-to-5 job. If you live in a poverty society, you might think that the American dream is the only other choice. But in all reality, to just get a job will take you out of the poverty mentality. In an article called 3 Warning Signs of Poverty, Randy Gage tells us 3 signs of his poverty thought. The first one is constant money fixation. This is when the person is constantly thinking about money or the lack of money they have. The next is, I hate rich people. They're jealous of the things they don't have and the people that are comfortable do. This causes internal conflict and may cause more problems such as giving up. Lastly, fear-based decision making. They are making decisions based on fear. When making these decisions on what they want their future to hold, it starts to rob them of their happiness and will soon just make them give up. After discovering what poverty is, next let's look at the effects it is causing and how it will affect the person that isn't poor. Effects from people in poverty are actually limited on the average person, but we can be brought out of proportion when put on a big scale. One way we keep this country running is through education. Living in poverty at a young age is the hardest thing to grow out of, according to 11 Facts of Education and Poverty in America. In 2011, nearly 46.2 million Americans were living in poverty, and the dropout rates from 16 to 24-year-old students who come from low-income families were 7 times higher than the average person in higher incomes. This is more because students who struggle in classes can't spend extra money to take lessons or get tutored. In small schools, it is easier to help meet each student's needs. Although it is easier for some students, more kids growing up in those households are struggling to fit in with kids in their classes. These kids are less likely after graduating to go to college because they don't feel like they can pay for it. Also, most families need the money now, so they would rather drop out and get jobs than wait to get a degree and make more money in the future. Along with needing money, that makes them less involved in extracurricular activities and brings the problem of them feeling like they can't fit in. Students that work all their time and not paying attention to their grades because they feel like they don't matter. Smaller schools struggle with students like these because poor families move to small towns and affect the mentality of other students, their classes, that may be on edge of falling into poverty. Poverty has many impacts, so lastly we will go some ways that we can help these people in poverty. There are many things that people are doing already to help these kids in poverty, but we can do more to fix this problem on a wide scale. There are already ways that the government is helping out these students and that is causing the conflict. According to the article titled Policy Based, the Income Tax Credit, researchers have found that lifting low-income families' immediate well-being is associated with better health, more schooling, more hours worked, and higher earning in adulthood. Some people think that why do these kids get special privileges over my student, but in all defense, the students need the benefits because they didn't, then there is no way they would grow up out of it. There are many different ways we can help people in poverty and lessen the numbers. 12 ways to fight poverty in your community tells us one way is to hold a benefit concert, and this can be as simple as holding a talent show in your school and charging admissions. Another way is to volunteer. Most towns have a food pantry. You could spend your Saturday morning working to help families out in your town. If you are still a student, you can do the smallest thing, such as encouraging your classmates that are struggling, even if you don't know they are in poor. All students need some encouraging. Although it may be hard for some people that aren't associated to live with poverty or understand what these people have to deal with every day, we need to find it in ourselves to try and understand, because this problem is not going away. We first looked at the definition of what poverty is, next looked at the effects on poverty, and finally found out ways that we can fix these problems. The little time we put into other people may cause a big difference someday. We should stay out of poverty by working hard in the beginning and finding ways to get our own jobs done and get a high school and college degrees. Asking our financial aid in high school and college will help if you are struggling. Do a favor for your children and stay out of poverty.